Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I want to talk a little bit about YouTube, about the expectations on YouTube for content creators, especially sports card content creators, and just respond to a few things that have been out there from some other content creators. So I'll start with the video that got me thinking. It was this, YouTube bubble burst video from AIH. And so, in the video, he talks about, people leaving the hobby YouTube side of it. And he kind of correlates it to the hobby, the sports card bubble bursting in terms of just the market a little bit. And so, since the market isn't hot, people have left, content creating because it's not, generating the views it used to, and they moved on to other things. I think some of that's true. But I want to, respond, based on my own channel, my own experiences. And I would say, and I've already done a video about this, and it was responding to Dakota's video, Sports Card Anonymous leaving YouTube content creation. And I talked about how sports card content on YouTube is a very small niche. It does not generate enough views and subscribers to really be something that you could hang your hat on and say, I'm going to be professional at this and I'm going to make a living at it. I think that's unfeasible. So if you're going to look at getting into YouTube content creating as a profession, I would seriously suggest you not do that. I would say you'd be more successful opening up an OnlyFans or some other type of content creating that has some hope and possibility of making money other than sports cards. So you have to do it for fun. You have to do it for the love of the hobby. And I think for some folks that are leaving, that might not be their goal. They may have thought, hey, I'm going to be a YouTuber, and I can't do it in sports cards, so I'm going to move on. And that sort of is what Dakota was saying on his video. But the thing I take umbrage with, and I'll talk about, where I'm at in a minute, but the thing I take umbrage with is, Card Ladder, the dude from Card Ladder, also said the same thing that AI sort of said, which is, the content that you're generating isn't good enough to grow, or you're, basically saying that the content creators aren't doing a good enough job, and so therefore they're either not growing, or they're not growing the category or the sports card hobby on its own. Card Ladder guy said, basically like, the content sucks. We don't use enough analytics, blah, blah, blah. And to that, I just say, screw you guys. If that's what you really think, if you think that content creators like myself or small guys who don't have anybody helping, who spend hours in our basement, just to, do this, aren't doing it properly, or aren't using the right cameras or microphones, or don't have professional looking editing, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. My bad if that's really what you think is the reason why our channel isn't growing. But the reason why, for the most part, these smaller channels, or I would say, I don't want to say other channels, I would say me, the reason why my channel doesn't grow, and I'll talk about two specific videos as examples, is I am the limiting factor to the channel growing. It's my personality, it's my ability to communicate that keeps my channel from growing. That is it. It's nothing to do. I do similar content as hundreds of other YouTubers that have channels that grow fine, that get enough viewership to continue to grow at a normal rate. I've gone through large stretches where I've not gained a single subscriber for weeks. I've gone through stretches where my videos don't even get to 100 views. Consistently, video after video. So I can't blame my content so much as the person delivering the content. And that is what you have to realize, is that for the most part, you could fix the cameras, you could fix the microphones, but you can't fix the person behind if no one finds that person interesting or finds that person compelling enough to want to watch. And so that's what I'd say is the most important part of this whole thing is if you can't figure a way to deliver the messaging or write it succinctly or do it in a way that's entertaining, you're not going to get much of an audience, even on YouTube. And when we're talking niche of a niche, it's like, there's a lot of YouTube content creators out there, so you have a lot of choice. So you don't have to watch the boring guy talking about DC cards. You can watch something else, and that's fine. And that's exactly what happens. So, from my perspective, the part that makes it hard for me and the reason why I made that, realization, like, I am the limiting factor and I'm probably never going to fix myself to the point that I can be Jeff or even Neo, on YouTube. I'm just never going to get to that level. Was two things. One is, started out with this video back here when I did the DC versus Marvel, why I prefer DC stories over Marvel. And that I used like a few sources, and one of them was, the top 9 out of the top 10 comic book stories ever written are DC versus Marvel. And I just thought that some Marvel people would come in and debate that with me, or at least make a comment. I did this video 13 days ago. I've received 0 comments. Nobody's reacted to this video at all. Like, that's just disappointing. And what I'm saying is that it's not negative reaction, it's not positive reaction, it's no reaction. It's the apathy that's the problem. And so when you're asking content creators to do better, to put more effort into it, I'm going to say that videos like this, where you research things, you put things together, you kind of script it out, work on it, and you get 0 comments, very low view count, and it's very apathetic response, you're not going to spend a lot of time on this in the future. It's just from a mental health perspective, it makes no sense. It's like running against a brick wall and saying, well, next time I'm going to break through that wall. And again, the brick wall is yourself. That's kind of meta, but that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to like say, I can be better without any path forward to be better, because it's really you that you're competing against or trying to make people like more. And to me, like, I'm to the age where I'm not going to have a giant personality change between now and tomorrow or the next day. So it's just what it is. The other video was, so after that video, I was like, man, like, is it my content or is it me? Is it just like I'm not creating the good enough content? If I'm not, is it just like nothing's resonating? Should I start looking at different kind of content? So I thought, what if I did something radically different and try to put something out there to see if that would spur more conversation? Even if people hated it, would I get more reaction? So I did the Comicking episode number 1, where I talked about woke Marvel agenda. It was ruining sports cards, and I did that tongue-in-cheek. It was 50-50 real issue. So I do feel like there is a real issue with Marvel cards, which is they kind of don't want to use, I think, sometimes images that look good, especially like this year's Spider-Man Miles cards all look terrible. But the idea is, like, I try to blow that issue up into like, well, it's because Marvel is sanitizing cards, and I don't want to use bikinis anymore and all this other stuff, right? And I I try to use like language like the Comicking, which is a play on Jeremy's channel, The Quartering, which he used to be a Magic the Gathering guy. I watched him do Magic videos long before he's this pop culture guy. So I was thinking that people would pick up on that. They would pick up on the fact I talk about She-Hulk. I talk about I never saw the show. I still haven't seen the show. As the reason why Marvel's woke and all this other stuff. The idea was to do the video sort of tongue-in-cheek, but also kind of have a real point, is that the images kind of suck sometimes. And I thought maybe that would generate a lot of discussion, and it generated a little more discussion. I believe it got like 10 or 11 comments. But I lost 4 viewers. And I'm actually still one subscriber lower than when I started that video. So it's lower. I'm actually 1 subscriber lower than when I started. So I didn't gain anything from that. Lost overall 1. So you know, it didn't work. And so that just kind of was the experiment to show it's just you. You know, you're the limiting factor. So now I have to pivot, and I have to realize like I'm only going to be so big because of that. So I have to really do things I like to keep going. So the video I did recently, the Let's Go video, is me playing guitar over people shouting "Let's go," and to me that is hilarious. And maybe two other people thought it was hilarious, and it was poorly, probably edited, probably poorly recorded. I did it in one take in my basement, and I don't care. It's what it is. I'm not going to sit down and professionally edit a song. I'm not going to write. I'm not going to put drums and bass and spend 20 days editing this 2-minute song just to make it sound better to get 5 extra views. So I'm going to put the amount of effort that I feel is necessary to make me happy, and that's what it's going to be. So a lot of videos about DC cards, a lot of videos about pirate cards, a lot of Ken Griffey Jr. videos, a lot of vintage card collecting videos are coming up, and that's because that's what I like. And I'm not going to probably focus on news. I'm probably not going to focus on things unless I'm interested. If I'm interested in it, I'll do it. But I'm not going to try to do content that's just popular to try to grow the channel, because it's not going to work. I've proven that. I mean, it's over 2 years, so it's not like I've got a small sample size. So, but I just want the message to be out there to people coming in to the space that, in general, the people who succeed, just like in high school and just like in life sometimes, people have natural charisma, natural ability to communicate, natural ability to have people want to listen to them, and they just in general are the ones who do better at this. And it's hard to sit there and be like, well, I do everything exactly like this guy does and I don't grow. Why? Well, maybe it's because people just like that guy better and they want to hang out with that guy and they connect with that guy better, or girl. And so that's reality. So that's the realistic part of it, and that's really what it's like making content on YouTube. Is you kind of have to swallow the ego to some extent, accept where you kind of fit, and then go from there. And if you want to have 1 million subscribers, you're going to have to do things differently than what I currently do, and I'm just not willing to do that. So I have to be happy where I'm at, because I'm not going to hire a film crew. I'm not going to hire someone to talk in front of the camera instead of me, which is probably what I should do. If I wanted to grow fast, I'd probably hire someone who actually people would want to listen to, versus for myself. But that would be like how you would grow a channel or try to take the idea and do something with it. And again, I'm just doing this for fun now, and it's always been for fun. But I thought maybe at some point when I first started that, I would grow to a point where I can make it, like kind of a side gig. And, that's definitely not going to happen. It's not going to be like 20% of my, like what I do. This is like what I do at night in my basement at 2 a.m. This is what I do. And so, again, it gives me something to do. It's a hobby, and it's like just part of my collecting hobby. So for people coming into YouTube, I think you have to look at the, those kind of realities and kind of be realistic. And if you do that, I think you'll have fun. If you don't be realistic, you might be like a Dakota and just leave. And both of those scenarios are fine. But I don't think we should be blaming folks for making bad content on some of these issues, because again, making content's hard. It takes time and effort. And even if you do it badly, it still took time and effort to do it badly. So there it is, guys.